Hi everyone, let's learn how to add and subtract with fractions by finding their least common denominator. Now for that we're going to work through two examples. The first is the one we have here. We need to calculate 2 over 5 plus 1 over 3, or 2/5 plus 1/3. The whole trick when adding and subtracting with fractions is that they have to be written over the same denominator. But here we can see that the first fraction is written over 5 and the second is written over 3. So the whole idea is to start by writing each of these two fractions as equivalent fractions over a same denominator. And here are 3 steps which will always work. The first step, step 1, is to find the least common multiple of the two denominators. So in this case, the least common multiple of 5 and 3. So I'll go ahead and write step 1 is LCM, as in least common multiple, of 5 and 3. Now, a quick and easy way of finding the least common multiple of two whole numbers is to write the first few multiples of each of the two numbers. So the multiples of 5 would be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and so on. And the first few multiples of 3 would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and so on. Now, looking at these two lists of numbers, it doesn't take us long to see that the smallest number that they have in common is 15. And so 15 is the least common multiple of 5 and 3. Now, since 5 and 3 are the denominators of these two fractions, we say that 15 is the least common denominator. And in fact, we could write LCD, as in least common denominator, equals to 15. Alright, now that we know that 15 is the least common denominator, we can go ahead and rewrite this addition as something over 15 plus something over 15. And that leads us to step 2. And in step 2, we need to rewrite each of these two fractions as their equivalent fractions over 15. And here's a quick and easy way to do that. For the first fraction, 2 over 5, we want that to equal to something over 15. All we have to do is ask ourselves, what do we have to multiply 5 by to get 15? And it doesn't take long to see that we'd have to multiply 5 by 3. But since we're multiplying the bottom of the fraction by 3, we need to multiply the top of the fraction by 3 as well. And so 2 times 3, well, that's 6. So the first fraction in this addition can be rewritten as 6 over 15. Now we do the same for the second fraction, 1 over 3. And so we go ahead and write 1 over 3 is equal to something over 15. And now to get from 3 to 15, we would have to multiply 3 by 5. And since we multiplied the bottom of the fraction by 5, we need to multiply the top of the fraction by 5 as well. And 1 times 5, well, that's 5. So the second fraction in this addition is 5 over 15. Finally, now that both of these fractions are written over the same denominator, we can add them simply by adding their numerators together and expressing the result over 15. So that would be step 3, in which we actually calculate. So we can now state that this is equal to 6 plus 5 over 15. And since 6 plus 5 is 11, we can state our final answer as 11 over 15. And we're done. And the 3-step method we just used also works for subtracting one fraction from another. And to show that, let's quickly work through the second example. In this example, we need to find 3 over 4, or 3/4, minus 2 over 5, or 2/5. And to take care of that, we can follow our 3-step method. Remember, step 1, we find the least common multiple of the two denominators. So those are 4 and 5. And so I'll just write LCM of 4 and 5. Now, the first few multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and so on. And the first few multiples of 5 are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and so on. And looking at these two rows, it doesn't take us long to see that the smallest number they both have in common is 20. So the least common multiple of 4 and 5 is equal to 20, and since 4 and 5 are the denominators of these two fractions, we can go ahead and state that the least common denominator is equal to 20. And what that tells us is that we need to rewrite this subtraction as something over 20 minus something over 20. And that leads us to step 2. We need to rewrite 3 over 4 as a fraction over 20, as well as 2 over 5 as a fraction over 20. So for 3 over 4, we state that 3 over 4 equals to something over 20. And we ask ourselves, what do we have to multiply 4 by to get to 20? And it doesn't take long to see that we'd have to multiply 4 by 5. But since we're multiplying the bottom of the fraction by 5, we need to multiply the top of the fraction by 5 as well. And 3 times 5, well, that's 15. So the first fraction is equivalent to 15 over 20. We do the same for the second fraction, and we write 2 over 5 is equal to something over 20. And we ask ourselves, what do we have to multiply 5 by to get 20? And it doesn't take us long to see that we'd multiply it by 4. And since we're multiplying the bottom of the fraction by 4, we need to multiply the top of the fraction by 4 as well. And 2 times 4, well, that's 8. So the second fraction is equivalent to 8 over 20. Finally, now that we've rewritten our two fractions as equivalent fractions over the same denominator, we move on to the third and final step, in which we calculate. And for that, all we have to do is subtract the numerator of the second fraction from the numerator of the first fraction. And all of that is written over 20. So that would be 15 minus 8 over 20. And since 15 minus 8 is 7, we can state that this equals to 7 over 20. And we're done. We've just subtracted 2 over 5 from 3 over 4 by finding the two fractions' least common denominator. And there we have it. That's it for this tutorial.